and welcome to CHTA Live Forging Ahead series. Today's session is AI Horizons, Redefining Caribbean Hospitality and Tourism, Navigating Innovation, Opportunities and Challenges. My name is Vanessa Ledesma, Acting CEO of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We ask if you have any questions or comments to please use the Q&A feature. And at this point, I will turn it over to the moderator of the session today, Sanavnik Dastant, chairperson of the Technology Task Force and CHTA's president-elect. Sanavnik, over to you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for the introduction. So good morning, everyone. A very exciting day for us here at CHTA. Very historic day. We're going to be unveiling certainly the first of its kind in the Caribbean and probably in this part of the world, Caribbean hospitality industry guidebook for artificial intelligence. To our knowledge, we're certainly one of the first to be to do this, perhaps other than the World Travel and Tourism Council themselves. And you know, artificial intelligence, there's obviously been a lot of talk about it. You've all heard about it and ChatGPT and how it's changed things. And the reality is that AI is not new, but generative AI has really taken the world by storm in so many ways and has really accelerated since the introduction of ChatGPT in November of 2022. And we certainly have been utilizing it quite a bit in our company and at CHTA. But there's still a lot of trepidation, and understandably so. It's probably the biggest technological advancement that we've seen since the introduction of the internet itself, and it's going to have perhaps even a bigger impact on all of us. And today we're going to be introducing a guidebook that is very balanced in its approach. It takes a very balanced approach to AI. It talks about the benefits, but also the risk and how to mitigate them. And fortunately for us, it's not a very long read, folks. It's certainly something you can share with your departments. It's not very tech heavy. It's written with the busy CEO in mind from a very practical standpoint. And it really is just the beginning. The guidebook was authored by our technology task force that I chair, as Vanessa mentioned, and was started under our presidency of our current president, Nicola Madden Gregg. She had the foresight and to understand that. I don't know if she knew how technology would be really reintegrated into our lives in a big way with AI at the time when she started this task force, but it ended up being very timely. And while it was authored by the Technology Task Force, the real champion of this project would be my co-chair, Christus Gill from St. Lucia, who is also on the call and will really take you through it. And of course, incidentally and ironically, but not surprisingly, that AI guidebook was co-authored by AI itself. Yes, we did use artificial intelligence to actually help us and assist us with coming up with the guidebook itself and to save some time as well. And the results were pretty remarkable in terms of the final product. Christus, as I mentioned, is our co-chair, and he will be our first speaker today. Christus has worked in the information technology field, specifically in the hospitality industry for over a decade. I know he doesn't look like it, but he's been there quite some time. He's currently the IT manager for Zoetry Marigot Bay, part of the Hyatt's Inclusive Collection. He's also a co-chairman of our task force, as I mentioned, and he's in the past been IT manager at Anshastley Jade Mountain in St. Lucia. He has a bachelor's degree in information technology, and he is a certified hospitality technology professional, designation that is offered by the HFTP, our Hospitality Finance and Technology Professionals, who are also the founders of the High Tech Conference, which I'm sure you saw a lot about in the intro, and which quite a few of you are hopefully going to be attending. He's also received a lot of accolades for his professional competence in IT, and he believes in philanthropy. Christus, you really must, because this was a yeoman's work that you put in and totally for free. So we appreciate that. So Christus will be our first speaker, but very soon after, we'll also hear from Miss Omega Simmons, who, as you can see from the bio, she is a media and communications professional. So she's coming at it from not necessarily a technology standpoint, but she is a professional radio personality with over 2 decades. Again, Omega, I don't know when you started, your 2 decades of experience in print media and broadcasting. She's the owner of SOS Media, a boutique PR company in Turks and Caicos. And she is also one of our CHTA young leaders. She was part of the first graduating class that graduated just last year. And we will, in fact, be starting another CHTA Young Leaders program. They've officially gotten the notifications yesterday, I believe. So that will be coming up shortly. She is from the Bahamas and has lived in Turks and Caicos for over 8 years and is ambassador not only for Turks and Caicos tourism, but for tourism in the Caribbean. So some distinguished speakers who are going to give you some unique perspectives on the AI, but also this guidebook, which, as I mentioned, is groundbreaking. There's really nothing like it that you've seen, certainly from CHTA and probably from just about any HTA in the world. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Christos first, because I want him to take us through the guidebook, tell us a bit about how you came up with this, Christos, and at a high level, what people can look forward to from it.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. So right now, there's a lot of buzz in the media regarding artificial intelligence. And I know a lot of business owners, they can tell that it's important because of the big players investing in it. You have Google, Microsoft, all of the big players investing in artificial intelligence very heavily. But at the same time, they may not know specifically how it can benefit their business. So just to clarify, AI stands for artificial intelligence, and it's essentially the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, by computers, right? And the opinions on it are very varied. You have one side who believes that it's going to be the silver bullet that's able to solve all of our problems. And then on the other end, you have people who believe it's the beginning of the end. They want nothing to do with it. It's met with a lot of fear. So the guidebook essentially aims to clear up any misconceptions persons may have and show them practical ways in which they could use AI to improve their businesses. So the first chapter, we explore exactly what AI can do for us in travel and tourism. And that's from crafting hyper-personalized guest experiences to improving our operational efficiency. Now, what exactly do I mean by hyper-personalized guest experiences? So in hospitality, we usually try to discern our guest preferences in order for us to be able to create, an experience that's unique, it's memorable for them. We try to obtain that information through usually concierge calling them before arrival, trying to ascertain their reason for traveling. But usually to craft these unique personal experiences, it's usually limited to boutique hotels because it's the human beings, we have physical limits. So if you have a large property, it's a bit difficult to expect your staff to remember every guest's name and why they're here. AI helps bridge that gap. So for example, you could have an AI concierge that communicates with your guests, and it's able to discern why they're here, and based on probably previous stays, it knows their dietary preferences. It knows whether that person prefers to lounge at the pool compared to going on a hike. And with all of that information, we're able to craft exceptional experiences, memorable experiences for them. The second chapter focuses more on the day-to-day use of AI. And some of the advantages, like in my previous example, the virtual concierge, it doesn't require breaks. It doesn't call in sick. It can service multiple guests at the same time, right? It knows all the information about your business. It knows nearby attractions. And if there's something that it cannot handle itself, it can alert the necessary department to take action. So we look at some of these in detail. We also touch on AI-powered revenue management systems. These systems are capable of adjusting prices in real time based on forecasts and other metrics. We talk about how AI can assist hotels in optimizing energy consumption. We know for hotels, energy consumption is usually one of the largest utilities. So if you have data about your consumption, AI can use that to determine, okay, this is our room occupancy right now. We can automatically adjust the cooling. We can automatically adjust the lighting to save energy. Even sites like booking.com, they now identify properties who have earned their sustainability certifications. So it's becoming very big when it comes to sustainability. Travelers are becoming more environmentally conscious, and businesses who are not aligned with that vision, they might actually begin to lose business as a result. So with AI being your energy management assistant, it's able to get you into a place where your hotel can have a lower carbon footprint and save energy and save the business owner money as a result. In chapter 3, we talk about strategic planning, team culture, having clear goals, not necessarily going after every single AI solution that's out there or advertised to you, but knowing exactly what you want to achieve for your business, having a long-term goal, and utilize AI to help you get there. Chapter 4 digs into challenges, ethics, privacy, fairness, legal issues, and of course, trying to keep the human touch in our hospitality, especially as a Caribbean destination. I think we've made our mark in hospitality when it comes to the warmth and friendliness of our people. So you definitely you don't want to lose that aspect. Chapter 5 looks ahead at what's coming, spotting big trends, and essentially fostering a mindset within your team, seeing how they could work together with AI to achieve your objectives, and also how we as hoteliers in the Caribbean can learn from each other's implementations, learn from the benefits, learn from the mistakes. And chapter 6, finally, it's a big picture overview of AI's transformative potential for us as an industry, and to get involved in making the most of these tools for our growth. So think of the guidebook as an invitation to start experimenting with AI, even though you don't necessarily want to implement it into your operation as yet, but you could use it as a brainstorming tool, helping you find fixes for different issues that you have in vulnerabilities, and essentially making your operation a lot more efficient.
Christos, thank you for that. I mean, that's a good overview in a short time of what really the guidebook is all about. And as you can see, it's very, very balanced in terms of its approach, talking about the pros and the cons and the risk and how to mitigate them. And I like what you said as well about, not every AI solution is necessarily going to be relevant for your tourism business. And it gives you a framework for making those decisions. That doesn't just apply to AI, but could apply to any technological innovation that's going to come. And you can imagine that the pace of technological innovation is going to accelerate now, just as it did with the internet, it's going to accelerate even more with AI. So Omega, we've heard a bit about the book, about the guidebook from Christos. We'd love to get your thoughts on it and perhaps some applications from other sectors that you think might be relevant.
Thank you so much, Zinovnik. First of all, great job, Christos. There's such a large amount of information in the guidebook. It's really easily digestible, but you've done a fantastic job with bringing it down to 5 minutes. Now, admittedly, even though we've gotten 5 minutes apiece, I said, Christos is probably going to take about 10, so I can have a little leeway with where I'm headed with this. So Zinovnik, please feel free to ring a bell, shoot off an alarm or something if I go past my 5 minutes. Because as my team can tell you.
No, you're fine. You're good.
It's a struggle for me. But hey, especially since I'm excited, Zinovnik, to be here today to speak about something that I'm really excited about. It's exciting to me because I think that in the Caribbean, we are in a position where we're poised right now to redefine Caribbean hospitality through the use of AI. And even though AI is happening globally, it's a global conversation. The implementations right now are, there's a fast-paced move towards everyone now adopting AI in some way, shape, or form. But I think that we can all agree that nobody does it like we do it in the Caribbean. And so if we then now start to adopt AI, I think we're in such a sweet spot because we can show the world how technology and current trends can be incorporated into tourism while not losing an iota of our warmth, our hospitality, our personability, all of the things that really make hospitality in the Caribbean genuine and unique, okay? So what I'd like to do is talk a little more so that our attendees can start to wrap their minds around how they can make use of AI in their businesses. Let's start with a look at sustainability. Krista's talked about how this, of course, is mentioned a lot in the guidebook. And there's a reason for that. It's obviously top of mind for all of us. And leveraging AI can certainly play a big role in managing our resources more efficiently. We can optimize our energy use through these systems that now can adapt their settings to the changes in occupancy, even weather conditions, things of that nature. We can utilize AI to streamline how we manage waste. And this can help us to further our commitment to our environmental stewardship in our properties or even in our smaller businesses. And of course, then that is a boon to the entire region. An example of this, if we take a look at Accor, which a lot of us know that name, they saw that each year hotels were producing about 20 tons of waste, and they set a goal to cut this down by about half by the year 2030. Now that's a huge goal, but here's what they've done. They've started off by using an online reporting tool. This tool measures food waste. The tool even monitors carbon footprint performance, okay? And they then partnered with a few AI startups, and they're using those tools from these startups to analyze food visually. So they're looking at food surpluses. They're scanning leftovers for data. And then they're now utilizing a tool that predicts customer demand, okay? And so when you put all of those things together, you're now making a huge dent in your plan towards reducing waste. And they didn't forget about the human element, because when we talk about AI, this is, of course, a big part of the conversation. So they've then developed now specific training materials which educate kitchen employees on food waste, okay? So these things are working hand in hand. They also then partnered with a company called Too Good To Go. And through that partnership, they've saved 137 tons of food from waste. And that's actually equivalent to about 340 plus tons of excess CO2 emissions. So we can see that AI, there are uses that are certainly important to where we're trying to go as a region with respect to how we manage the sustainability in our destinations. And so properties are now seeing the benefits of this, okay? This exercise can now save hotels this huge amount of money. They can enhance their food and beverage margins, by more than 6%. And so it goes on, because of course we know all of these things are adaptive, right? And so that's just one example. But beyond that side of sustainability, we always talk about the resilience of Caribbean hospitality. And so we look at how AI can also help us to adapt to these changes that we always see in global travel, all of these dynamics, right? How can we leverage these tools to help us understand these market trends? And of course, going back to what Krista said, you have to have a plan. So you don't go and chase everything, but you figure out how can we use the AI tools that work with where we're headed and can help us to refine our plan and make everything more efficient. So as tourism operators, and that's whether we're big or small operators, we can now tailor our offerings to pay attention to traveler preferences. If we're looking at health and wellness-focused vacations, experiential travel, we're now utilizing these tools to help refine our plans. And then there's even disaster preparedness and using AI to help us with that. And we know that this is one of the top concerns in our region. This is something that can be vastly improved by incorporating AI tools, because it would help us to predict and better respond to these natural events. We can make use of AI tools through analyzing the data from weather stations, satellite imagery. These models can then provide us with more precise forecasts. And then that positions us to have a swifter and I'd say a more targeted approach and response to these sorts of disasters. And we all know too well, actually, how vital that is for our regions, where natural disasters like hurricanes can have a huge and far-reaching impact on all of our destinations. We talked earlier about the use of these automated concierges, right? And so I think most of us may have heard about Connie. And Connie is an AI-powered concierge robot that was developed by the Hilton in collaboration with IBM. Connie is now providing guests with information on hotel amenities, dining options in the area, local attractions, all of these things. Connie can understand human emotions, but even more so, she can then adapt her recommendations based on these interactions that she's had with guests, okay? So what does that allow us to do? Not only are we adding to the personalization of the experiences that we're giving to our guests, but then we're freeing up the human capital that we have in our organizations to handle the more complex tasks that we need them to focus on. And it goes on, because in Novnik, we've got Butler, the hotel robot that Aloft uses. Then we see robotic luggage handling. So we're now in this era where AI-powered robotic luggage handling through barcode systems are being used for automated luggage storage and retrieval services. And so there are so many different things that we can incorporate depending on where we are in this tourism landscape. And AI is the way to go with that. And before I close out, I just want to touch on even the smaller tourism providers, because I know that sometimes in these big conversations, smaller tourism providers feel left out. And I'm here to tell you that you're by no means left out of this, okay? ChatGPT, we've touched on it before, and I think it's probably one of the most popular tools that organizations use right now, even individuals use, specifically for its role in marketing. And so this can be your best performing marketing associate on your team. ChatGPT can do so much in terms of helping you to create stronger advertising campaigns, more targeted advertising campaigns. But then you take it a step further and you couple that with an extension like AI PRM, which then gives you 20-something hundred prompts right at your fingertips that have already been used and honed by marketers. And now you're pushing yourself to have better SEO and a better approach to your marketing for your website, so that you are tailoring your efforts for better search rankings and so on. And so these tools are there for you to help with marketing as well. Then there's Jasper AI, also very popular and probably arguably the most advanced AI copywriting tool that exists out there. And so if you need content and you're not a great copywriter, then you can make use of Jasper AI. And so in our small businesses, AI helps to pretty much democratize technology. And it allows us in our small businesses to compete with the larger businesses as well. And so there are so many things. I mean, I'll give you one example. Imagine a local craft vendor here in Turks and Caicos using an AI tool for their inventory system to predict product demand. So now that vendor, who has very little room for error in respect to merchandising, she can focus on her best-selling items and pushing those out during the peak season, and can also then decide what else she needs to add to her supply that complements that and is in alignment with those best-selling items, so that there's less waste and so that there's more profit. And who doesn't love more profit? And then restaurants, we know that we're using Open Table these days, but you can take that a step further, and these operations can start using AI tools to optimize their labor schedules and to even analyze sales data to predict the seasonal covers that they're going to get, and to pay attention to their best sellers, again, to increase profit. So I could go on, but I think I'm way past the 5 minutes. And so all I'll say is that going back to where I started, we are really truly in a sweet spot here where there's so much for us to explore and so many different ways that AI can enhance what we're doing. And as a destination, this is the time to grab a hold of that. And of course, the starting point is by taking a deep dive into the guidebook that the task force has created. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Omega. You gave me a lot of food for thought, and even some applications that I had not thought of as yet. And, you know, for small businesses using ChatGPT as well, the obvious thing to think about is marketing and copywriting. But I must have used ChatGPT four times this week for human resource related matters as well. Yes, you could use it to write up disciplinary action letters, but sometimes you want to think, you have a structure and you want to see how do I restructure this department to optimize. there's so much knowledge out there that it has read because of the other companies that have already done this. And you could try Googling that, but it'll take you forever, right? It's basically a search engine on steroids. It's an admin, it's a very fast admin. It doesn't replace though what you have, but it enhances it and can give you a lot of ideas. But you know, despite everything that we've said, which has all been mostly positive, you still find that the AI adoption is fairly low. We sent out a survey, a CHTA survey a few months ago, and we asked our members whether they were using generative AI or AI on the whole, and only 30-something% of them were. Another 30% or so were thinking about it, and close to 40% had no intention of using it at all. Now, that's good and bad. It means it's good in the sense that there's more opportunity, but interestingly, I've talked to other hoteliers in other parts of the world, including in the South Pacific. It's very similar there. So we have an opportunity to move ahead if we can increase AI adoption. But from your perspectives, and either of you can take this one, what do you think are the top 3 challenges to AI adoption in Caribbean hospitality in particular? And how do you believe that we can address those challenges to get more persons on board with utilizing and starting to look at artificial intelligence in their business?
Well, as an IT manager, I could say new technology tends to be very buggy, right? It's still unrefined. As impressive as it is, all of the feats that it's able to create, all of the answers it's able to generate, AI still suffers from a problem known as hallucination. Hallucination is essentially a term used when AI mix up information that is not accurate. So you will ask it a question about when is Sanovnik's birthday, and if Sanovnik is a public figure, it might tell you his birthday is on a completely different date, different year. It will just make it up. And the fact that these machines know how to speak like us, they use natural language models. They say it in a way that's very convincing. So you might take that information at face value, but it's not. And hallucination itself, if you understand what a large language model is, it's not necessarily a flaw, because the machine needs to be able to hallucinate, if you want to use that term, in order to be creative. Hallucination fuels creativity. So if you ask it for a business name, help me brainstorm 10 business name ideas for a tech company, right? It needs to be able to create things out of thin air in order to help you brainstorm, right? So that is a feature. The difficulty with AI right now, it doesn't completely understand when it needs to be creative and when it needs to be factual. So you might ask it something looking for credible information, and it will tell you, but it's not accurate at all, because a large language model is essentially the same technology that you use when you're typing on your phone and your phone is able to guess the next word that you're going to say.
Right.
If you're typing an email in Gmail, for example, and Gmail can finish your sentence for you if you press tab, it's like that, but on steroids. So instead of guessing the next word or sentence, it's able to create these documents in the context that you want, but it's not a database. I think people tend to have this notion that it's the face to infinite database of knowledge, and if it gives you some wrong information, you just need to go into the database and update that incorrect info. But it doesn't work that way. It wasn't meant to work that way. It wasn't its primary purpose. The primary purpose of a language model is to be able to speak right like us, right? And it's evolved so quickly that we're now able to use it for these other things like recipes and all of that.
Right.
But in terms of gaining factual information, because of the incredible size of the data set that it's using, hallucination is going to be an issue with LLMs in the foreseeable future. What I've seen, they try to mitigate the shortcomings of large language models by using a system called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. And what it would enable AI to do is, okay, when you need me to be creative, I will rely on my large language model. But if you're asking me factual information and I can determine that what you're asking for needs to be accurate, I can then go to a database that I know has factual information about your business or whatever venture and provide that to you. But that is still in development. So implementing new technologies into business, there's always a degree of risk. That's usually why larger companies tend to roll these things out slowly. They might have a pilot in one of their properties. But for smaller hotels, as much as it might be able, they might have the agility to do so because there might be less red tape, less approvals to go through. They still need to do it in a manner where they're careful about what they
Definitely,
use
and
it for.
I think as well it's important that one uses it for things that you have some subject matter knowledge in.
Exactly.
I would not use it to get legal advice if I'm
Right.
not
Or
a lawyer.
medical advice.
Or medical
Right. And even when you open the app, I know people are so used to seeing terms and conditions and clicking next, 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 so that they can get started.
advice. I think
When you start ChatGPT, it literally tells you you need to verify this information.
It does, but also it's depending on how you word the question, you'll actually see that it's searching Bing, right? Who it has a
Yes.
partnership with. It's searching a
Yes.
search engine,
Yes.
which you hope has factual information, right?
Yes.
As well, because I
And
guess you have to be careful what you search on the internet and fact check everything. But you can tell, and a lot of the use of AI as well, I've noticed, is how you word the questions.
Prompt.
ChatGPT as the prompts, yeah. The ChatGPT is, of course, a free tool, but there's a paid version of it, just $20 a month. You know, that's really small for what benefit you get out of it. But thanks for that, Christus. Omega, from your standpoint, so Christus gave us the risk, the fact that there may be hallucinations and the fear of that. But how do we address them, and what are some of the other challenges you see that are preventing small businesses in particular from adopting AI right now?
So I think that it goes sort of right back to what Christus is talking about, which is essentially AI literacy, right? We're going to go through a phase where people are intrigued by this idea of AI, and they're intrigued and excited about the ways that it can enhance what they're doing and the ways that they can leverage it. However, who is going to show them how to get there? And how do they navigate all of these different options that are out there? Because since the advent of ChatGPT and everybody's been grabbing a hold of that, there are so many tools out there. And if you go to revenue management, if you go to personalization tools, you're going to find a myriad of options in each of these segments. And so everybody's going to have to find a starting place, right? Again, we're doing well with respect to encouraging partnerships. We have our members throughout the region going to conferences like High Tech, where they can not only get exposed to more, but make connections with companies where they can now study with them, they can train with them, they can learn more about the tools and systems that they have in place. But we do have to now start setting a framework, and I believe that that is going to have to start in our education systems throughout the region as well. Because if AI is where we're headed, then yesterday is when we should have started incorporating AI literacy into our education plans. And so whether that's high school, whether that's middle school, or whether that's right now starting with our TVET programs, our community college hospitality programs, we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere quickly, because once people start demystifying AI, then they're going to feel a little more ready to grab a hold of these opportunities. And you're going to see that 30% that you spoke about rise more quickly.
Yeah, and you're so right. And I think you went right into our next question, which was about how the education system needs to change, including at the TVET and at our hospitality schools. Those of us who have, I think most of our destinations have some sort of tertiary level hospitality program of sorts. And, you know, it's going to soon have to be incorporated, you know, because there's not a department in hospitality that's not impacted and that can't become more efficient by use of AI. And I am really wondering how soon it'll take, how long it'll take us for us to change how we assess students as well. Because if it's the way we are now, you know, how do you know, I suppose, if the person really knows this, or if they just use ChatGPT to write their essay for them? You know, the assessments may have to become a bit more practical and more on the ground to see if the person's really can think through. Because again, AI is not meant to replace us, and it's not meant to do all the thinking for us. It's meant to augment and save time. Now, as we mentioned about AI not doing the job for us, I want to address the elephant in the room, so to speak. People are concerned, and perhaps deservedly so, that AI may be coming for some of their jobs. And the question is, should they be? And which jobs are more likely in this industry to be disrupted? And also, what new job opportunities are likely to be created? This is not new. I mean, the same thing was said about the internet. The same thing has been said for almost every major technological innovation. But this one is probably one of the biggest that we've seen in our lifetime. So what are your thoughts on that? Should people be concerned about AI replacing them? And if so, who perhaps needs to upskill, or which areas need to evolve, so to speak, with the coming of artificial intelligence?
Well, me personally, am I guaranteed to go first? Okay. Yeah, me personally, a lot of AI articles that you read, they usually start off trying to calm down their readers. So they'll tell you AI is not going to replace your job, right? It's going to create more jobs, jobs are going to be reformed. But personally, I believe AI is going to replace a lot of jobs. Yes, in a sense, new jobs will be created and some jobs will be lost. But let's look at an example. AI is incredibly efficient, right? So right now, you could ask AI to create a social media calendar for you, write captions for these dates, and it can actually give you prompts on what you could use to generate images related to these captions, right? That's the job of an entire social media team. So you might lose the role of social media agent and have a social media agent who's assisted by AI, and you might argue that, well, you lost one job role and you now have another. But that old job role required a team of 6. That new job role may just require one person with the assistance of AI. So I personally believe that AI is going to replace jobs. You already have AI that's capable of replacing front desk agents by doing the entire checking process, scanning passports, creating keys, right? Even printing out directions to guest rooms for them. You have digital, I don't know if you remember Poly AI that we saw at High Tech last year.
Yes, yeah, that
And that
was
was really
scary.
impressive.
It was impressive and scary at the same time. Very lifelike sounding. I could not believe it, honestly.
Yeah, at first I thought the demo was showing you what a human sounds like and what the AI sounds like, only to find out that I've been speaking to AI the entire time.
The whole
But
time. Yep.
it's smart enough to walk you through. If you have questions, it answers the questions, it understands context, it can book your entire reservation, ask you how many adults, how many children. Basically the job of a reservation agent, right? You have digital sommeliers that's basically a wine expert on an iPad app. Can tell you where the wine was made and what type of grape and how long it was fermented for. You have digital concierge agents. So there's a lot of jobs that at this time can be replaced with AI. Should you replace it with AI? That's another question. I see these technologies working to enhance the guest experience, not necessarily by themselves, but in a way where the AI can take care of the mundane tasks, the repetitive tasks, and that frees up your human resource to actually interact with your guests, right? Get to know them, create that bond, especially in the Caribbean. I think what sets us apart is our ability to connect with people. You have hotels that have repeat guests and they tell you they feel like they're coming back to their family when they return, and they ask for staff members by name, right? And there are many
Very true.
hotels that are across the Caribbean that's able to pull that off. If you have AI replacing all of these people, then you're losing what makes you unique.
Yeah, unique. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so true. And but So thank you first for scaring us about how all those jobs could be replaced, but then ending with how it doesn't need to be that way. Because I think we need to maintain what makes us unique. And as you said, if you're able to shed a lot of those mundane tasks, that then allows you to do the things that only human beings can do, better connecting with the guests, more opportunities for upselling. I can see how a social media team, I mean, we're using AI for social media a lot. That's freeing up the team to be more creative now.
Right.
And see, okay, what content. So I don't know, for example, maybe it could do, maybe AI can do that, but capturing new and unique content. I don't know that AI can go and get you live video yet, right? Christus, maybe you know something that I don't, but it still, as far as I know, requires a human being with a camera to go out there and get stuff. And if you run social media or have social media team, you know that they're kind of stuck between the desk work, right? And writing captions and writing content and having to be out of the office trying to get new content. So, and we're always like, guys, get new content, get new recipes, get new this, get new that. But then again, I have to do work at my desk. So I think, again, unless we find a way for AI to replace that as well, I think that it will enhance them, if anything, just using social media as an example. Now, you're actually in the media field, Omega. What do you feel about that, especially the example that was just used of how AI could replace all those mundane tasks or even replace the role itself?
Yeah, the conversation is so spot on because as someone in that area, I would love to not be sitting down creating graphics, creating the captions, uploading them to the scheduler, responding to the communities, and because you have to be social on social media or else you're just putting out noise, right? You don't get engagement unless you engage. So it goes right back to the fact that, again, AI is going to free up your human capital from doing those mundane and repetitive tasks, but there always still has to be what I want to call, what do I want to call it? The security right now. Somebody has to be watching what AI is doing and making sure AI is speaking your language. Because let's go right back to the example of creating a social media calendar. Yes, it can give you prompts. Yes, it can give you ideas for posts. You still have to touch that. You would still have to refine that quite a bit. It's even like when you're creating a speech or a press release, you are still going to have to go in there and ensure that it aligns with your brand tone, brand messaging, and the like. And yes, it can learn over time, but your ideal output is going to be not AI on its own, but a combination of the human element and what AI can do to help you optimize your efforts. So I totally agree with both you and Christus. We will never, it goes right back to what I was saying about us being in that sweet spot, especially in the Caribbean. We can never lose the human touch. Some people will not want to talk to Connie. I don't want to talk to Connie, the robot. Maybe that's exciting for me the first time I see her, but I'm going to need to talk to a human being. I mean, it goes right back to when we first started getting those automated answering machines. Right? You're dying to still speak to someone.
You keep pressing 0 and it keeps, you can't get to the human being.
0 doesn't even work anymore these days.
Not anymore.
They've taken 0 away from us. So it goes right back to the fact that the human element is always going to be what makes it special. And if we don't care about being special, then give it all to AI. But that's not how we roll in the Caribbean.
No, definitely not. And I think that one of the questions we're going to ask was kind of been answered. We need to ensure that Caribbean hospitality industry does not get left behind, and that we also don't lose what makes us unique. And it can be a little difficult because now with AI, people can perhaps steal our tricks, so to speak, in the Caribbean. They can say, what makes the Caribbean unique hospitality-wise, and what can we do in Bali, right, to adopt more of that? But they can try, but it's kind of hard in reality because there's hundreds of years of culture that has made us the way we are, and every island being unique as well. It's funny what you said about the human element too, because I'm using quite a few AI tools now. We just started using chatbots. Again, we don't want to go into specific. I'm not saying that it's great and you must use this one, but we are using an AI chatbot at Bay Gardens Resorts, and her name is Lucia, right? Say Lucia. And we're always talking about Lucia. It's like, guys, we have to teach Lucia about a little bit more. We have to train Lucia. And what is good about those tools is there's always a human element. They can ask to speak to a human being at any time, right? And there are actual human beings monitoring what Lucia is saying to the guests to make sure that it makes sense. It's not too robotic sounding. And at any time, you can take over from Lucia and say, all right, Lucia, thank you for your assistance. Let me take over from here. Let the adults take over from here and really, finish this off. But it still saves them time because 80-90% of the questions gets asked are the same, right? And it can answer a lot of these questions. It even makes bookings for them. So, you're going to see more and more of these things being utilized, even when you arrive on property. We have another AI-powered chatbot called Ivy, right? That takes a lot of the mundane work out, but at some point, again, a human being can interact with them. And we should never, I think, in Caribbean hospitality especially, not allow people to interact with a human being at some point, because some people, no matter what you do, will want that. They will at some point want to deal with an actual human being and not just deal with a robot. Now, we've been doing all the talking, and I'm looking to see if there will be any Q&A, again, for persons who are out there in Zoom land listening to us. You're free to ask any questions. We're here for, I think, the session's until 11 or a little past 11. I'm seeing a hand being raised. Now, Kristen and Vanessa, help me out. How does it work in this session? If they've raised a hand, can they speak?
If they can post the question on
Post it
the
in, yeah.
Q&A, that would be much better, Deborah. So just on the bottom, you will see a menu, and there is a Q&A with a question mark. And if you can do that, that would be very helpful. Otherwise, there is another option, but it could get a little bit complicated. So let's give Deborah a few minutes to put in the question on the Q&A.
At least in my section, it looks like it's right to the left of the chat button. Well, I don't know if they have the chat button on their end, but it's around where the chat button would have been normally.
Yes, and if we'll give a few minutes to Deborah, and if not, then we'll try another way. But in the meantime, I actually, just to follow up on the reference about the concerns about AI taking jobs and the reality that it will be, it will provide some efficiencies, right? But I think the flip side of it is that whilst it may replace some jobs or functions, then I think it's businesses and organizations looking at then where we can then switch that human support, because the human element always has to be involved, right? How then we switch those functions that are now managed through, or that are much efficient through AI, and then move those people or those resources to other venues. So I think it's always kind of like that opportunity of seeing then, now that we're doing much better or utilizing AI for these resources, then let's focus on other things where that human element cannot be replaced, right?
Right.
Correct. And it allows you to focus on more strategic matters, because and again, you don't have to be an expert in technology. So ChatGPT came on board in November 2022. I found out about it in January. I did not know it existed until January of 2023. I think our IT manager was already using it a lot. But the very first department to use it was not to use it heavily internally, other than myself, was not our IT, our marketing department. It was actually our HR manager. And she's on the call, and nobody who knows her is on the call. She is not technologically savvy, not really, right? She's not a tech person, but she likes to save time, right? And so she uses it for a lot of things, and is starting to ask it more detailed questions about things that we could only dream of doing, right? When it comes to how the organization is structured, how we structure training. We had to do a team building exercise some time ago, and we were trying to find someone to do it for us and couldn't. There was not enough trainers on island, the labor shortage, all of that. She said, well, we'll do it. And she used ChatGPT to come up with the entire team building agenda and everything. And we tweaked it. But that saved us some time and money, and probably put the trainer in jeopardy in terms of their job, because if people keep doing this, that trainer now is going to have to find ways to upskill himself or herself to make sure that they are offering something that's truly unique, because it basically replaced what I would have hired a trainer for normally.
Yeah.
Right.
Sanovnik and the group, just FYI,
There's a
Deborah's
question.
question was, it was answered.
Ah,
It was
Okay.
answered. So
Okay.
I actually would want, and I
okay.
know we have, we are mindful of time. We have a few minutes, but I'm going to kick it to you, Sanovnik, and first, and then for the rest. But some people may say that there are, there are great advantages of utilizing AI, but there may be some concerns about how, as an organization, if there are procedures and protocols in place that have to be developed to ensure that it's a wide world out there, that information could be accessed, right? So from an organization perspective, is the recommendation that there are procedures in place? What are some of the basic things that our organization would want to put in place as they look into implementing AI?
Yeah, that is extremely important. Policies have to be put in place when it comes to these new technologies, especially when it comes to the sensitivity of data. For example, somebody might learn that AI can learn to write like you and decide to copy a bunch of their emails and put it into ChatGPT, for example, so that it could learn their voice. But in doing so, a lot of company secrets could be leaked, and you'd be surprised how
Correct.
easy it is to get training data from ChatGPT. There were a group of penetration testers that they knew some vulnerabilities regarding large language models, and they were able to prompt ChatGPT to the point where it was able to divulge a lot of its training data fairly easily. So ChatGPT, they warn you of this, but of course, we're so accustomed to just clicking next and skipping the intro screen on apps. It tells you to verify the accuracy. It tells you not to input sensitive data, but yet still, you still find people doing things like that. So it's important to have these policies in place and actually train your staff, let them know these things before we just kind of drop them and tell them use AI. And I'd also recommend using the ChatGPT as a personal version. They have a free version, there's a personal, which
Right.
is plus, and then there's a version for teams. And that would
Yes.
actually give an IT administrator user administrative privileges, control permissions. And that version of ChatGPT doesn't use your chats to train their model. So your
Right.
information is more secure.
And it's affordable too, Christus. It's only $25 per
Yep.
person per month. So we've kind of looked at it, but haven't made a firm decision yet. But I believe that we'll probably have quite a few, certainly in key departments, utilizing it, because the free version is good, but it's limited. One of the things you can do, for example, is you can generate images with the paid version using is it DALL-E?
DALL-E, yeah.
Yeah, you could generate. We actually used it for this. So we had a drawing of a beachfront kitchen that we were trying to design, still designing, and we had the drawing. He said, "Well, we want the pizza oven here, and we want this here, we want that here, and we want it looking this way towards the ocean. How's it going to look?" I was floored, and I know that DALL-E is not even necessarily the most powerful one. You've got the one that's owned by the people who own
I think
oh gosh, I
Mid-Journey is
forgot.
even more powerful.
Mid-Journey.
Yes.
Mid-Journey is even better, right? But I was shocked at how good it was. And people are like, who drew this for you? I'm like, yeah, I did.
Now
The AI did,
imagine
and
you.
No, it's absolutely incredible. But when we
Yeah.
go back to this conversation about data privacy, right, which is essentially what a lot of people's concerns are, and a lot of organizations want to know, when we start stepping into this space of AI, how do we ensure data privacy? I think it can't be lost on us that if we're going to where we want to go, we have to start looking at international data protection laws and being well versed in those. We have to get our own policies in terms of government bodies have to start paying attention to what's going on because we have to start putting the right things on the books as well in our respective destinations. So when we start talking about this full balloon, this idea of incorporating AI and taking it to its fullest potential in our destinations, the government agencies have to get involved, education bodies have to get involved, and we have to be well-versed in these compliances, right, that are international, and that the people who are coming as our guests, they expect us to know what we're doing if we're saying that we're providing these sorts of offerings and services, you know? And then now piggybacking on this, amazing, because I think, Sanovnik, you could take us down a real rabbit hole. So you start talking about
tell me
DALL-E
about
and
it.
and all of these things. You know, it's so interesting that I think people, if you really were to delve into it, and I'm going to go back to a small business example, if you really were to delve into it, you know, you could take a tool like DALL-E and you can build a team member as a small business person. You could literally build another team member that is an IT avatar, right? Sorry, an AI avatar. You have me saying IT since yesterday. An AI avatar, right? That can essentially be a second team member that you don't pay a salary to, but that can be trained to actually, quote unquote, speak to your customers, you know? So the opportunities with respect to AI are truly endless. And, you know, I think we said it yesterday, this obviously is going to be just the tip of the iceberg with the types of things that we're going to want to delve into as we, you know, educate all of our Caribbean visionaries on where we can really go with this as a region with respect to leveraging AI.
Absolutely. Now, I know we've only got about 1.5 minutes, so we do need to wrap up. I feel like we could have gone on for an extra half an hour. You need to give us 1.5 hours next time, Vanessa and Krista, a little more time. But we went through most of our questions, and thank you again to our panelists, and thank you to CHTA for you know, really spearheading this and being part of this groundbreaking moment where we release a guidebook for Caribbean hospitality. I think 2 things I wanted to close with, though. What we spoke about is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we're trying to do at CHTA through our partnership with the hospitality technology and finance professionals. We are going to be releasing more guidebooks, and some of them that'll be more practical and best practices. One of the things we were not able to include in this one was actual case studies. We're still working on that. We've got some good case studies right here in the Caribbean and worldwide that we want to share that can be useful, not just for hotels, but you know, for all in Caribbean hospitality, if you're an attraction, if you're a travel agent, restaurants, a standalone restaurant, any of these businesses can benefit from this. And anyone who is a member can also benefit from a very exclusive membership benefit regarding the attendance at high tech. Now, high tech, if you are even modestly into technology, or if you're definitely into me is when in 2023, or is it before AI, before generative AI, before ChatGPT, 2023, we saw some incredible stuff. Now that we've had a full year and a bit and a half of generative AI, I'm really excited to see what tools are now out there. HFTP, and we can definitely send more information about that to you. It's in June in Charlotte. You don't want to miss it. There were about 25 of us or so from the Caribbean last year. Hopefully more of you will be able to attend this year. There's the information there. Scan that QR code for your exclusive CHTA member offer. So I just wanted to add that shameless plug in because we want to get our numbers up. It's in Charlotte, fairly easy to get to for a lot of us. And it was a lot of fun, very educational. So Vanessa, I'm not sure there's anything else that you wanted to add. Hopefully we got through all of the Q&A as well in the group.
Definitely, Sanovnik, Omega, and Christos, thank you very much for giving us your time and expertise today, and also Sanovnik, Christos for the work, and please thank the Technology Task Force as well for their support with the AI guidebook. You all that are in attendance have access to the guidebook. It was posted on the chat, so that you have first dibs at the document. It will be circulated to CHTA members shortly following up the webinars. We invite you to take advantage of the opportunity